All right, I'm Brandon Adams. I'm going to be playing 5-10 Parliament Omaha 6 max. The Mo Money, if you had to say, give an impression, I would say he's probably a weak player. Only reason I say that, well, he hasn't reloaded. So typically a pro, if he chooses to stay at the table, he likes the table, and so he would, if he started with 1,000, he would reload once he had lost. Also, I didn't like his play of re-raising out of position and then betting twice on a raggedy board. It just didn't make a lot of sense. The way the hand played out didn't make any sense. If you were betting out, then I would think that he would have a strong made hand there, but then he folded the river. So here we have a nice hand. We have good high card value. The Ace King 10. We're double suited. I chose to raise before the flop because I have such a strong hand that if it hits is likely to be a big favorite over the opponent. Here we've hit the hand. We love this flop. We're willing to lose all our money on this flop. We're going to bet out. Okay, now a draw plays very prominently in his range of hands, and he's drawing dead against us if he does have a draw. And if he has a made hand like ace, ace 7 or so, he will bet, and we figure to win decent money. We're just going to check. He bets. Now it's an interesting spot. I'm going to call rather than raise. And then this is an interesting spot. I'm gonna do an odd thing here. The draw did get there. I'm gonna bet what looks like a defensive bet. All right, so now I call. I figured to have the best hand. We might well have the same hand in this spot. Wow, that was okay. That was not a good situation. He was drawing dead to one of 2 jacks, and he got there on the river. So by checking the turn, we left him with the impression that he had the best hand on the turn. He chose to bet out. If I had raised him, I think the way that hand played out, there's a good chance he would have called in that spot. He might have folded. He bet thinking that his hand was best. I called rather than pushing all in. He hit his dream card on the river. He could hit one of 2 jacks to beat me. He hit one of the 2 jacks. Obviously, this was a very unlikely hand for him to hit. I chose to bet what looked like a defensive bet, but was most of a pot bet. I chose to bet 290. The reason for that is if he had a draw on the turn and turned it into a bluff, he got there on the river, and he might have talked himself into a call for a half pot bet. And if he didn't have a draw, then he strongly figured to have a worse made hand, and most of the worst made hands that he could have had would not have called a full turn raise or a full river bet, given the action. So, like if he had say a set of 7s, that turned into sevens full of aces, he would, you know, probably give that up if I had raised on the turn or bet the river full. But when I bet what looks like a defensive bet, he has to call that. And he could even talk himself into bluffing with the worst hand. Okay, here we don't love our hand, but we have a reasonably nice hand, a pair of queens, king high flush draw. We're going to raise the pot. If not re-raised, we love our hand, because if we do flop a set of queens and someone else hits their hand, we likely have the best of it. We would not like it at all if we get re-raised by the short stack here. All right, very weak hand. It's about as weak as they come. Again, you're looking for all the cards to work very well together, and you're looking for draws that you're looking for hands that tend to make the nuts when they get there. So stuff like queen high, jack high, flush draw has little value other than redraw value. Interesting spot. Weird spot for him to re-raise there, because he's giving Omaha fan good odds to call with any random hand. He loves, if he does in fact have high cards here, like aces, he loves this flop. That's a very blank flop in a re-raised pot. Low cards don't figure prominently into any player's holdings. All right, we would love this to limp around because we have a weak hand, but we wouldn't mind seeing a flop. Okay, 8-10 jack, please. All right, we like this a lot. Now, we're going to bet. We're going to bet because no player, it's very likely that someone has a 7, that one of the 5 of us has a 7. And it's unlikely that anyone bluffs at this, but there are free cards that can beat us, right? Someone can have straight and beat us if we let it check around. If raised, we figure to not have the best hand, but we'll call probably and peel one off. All right, been dealt another weak hand. Three of a suit is not good for a couple reasons. One, it makes it less likely that you hit a flush given that you make a flush draw, and it makes it a lot less likely that you make a flush and your opponent makes a flush, given that there's a flush draw there and the flush gets there. And of course, you know, when you make a flush, usually you only get value from other flushes, and this is again why nut draws are what you're looking for in Omaha. You want the ace high flush draw. You don't want the king or the queen high flush draw. Now we have an interesting spot here. We have a bet of the pot. Oh, we have a very interesting spot. I suspect that he's going to call, given that he raised. It was an unlikely spot for him to be bluffing, so it must be a value raise. We have a hand-over-hand situation. We have quads. All right. Mo Money made a very bad play here if he did not have a set of aces. Okay, yes, he did indeed have aces full. So that was a cold deck. Let me see exactly what he had there. Yes, he was cold decked. He had a set of aces full, and he was up against quads. Okay, we have a bad hand, marginal hand. We are going to raise here. Again, with the short stack there, I don't love a raise anyway, so I'm not too unhappy about the timeout. Mo Money, wouldn't be surprised if this guy is permanently busted. He seems to play his hand in questionable ways. Oh, he reloads for a medium amount. which in Palm and Omaha, I don't think reloading for a medium amount is such a good play. I like to. The short stacking has a lot of value because you're basically never folding when you have a strong hand. You're never folding the best hand. Like if you have the best hand, all the money goes in. Someone has you beat, they have you beat, but you're rarely getting bluffed out when you're playing with a small amount. Whereas when you're playing with big stacks, frequently someone gets you to fold the best hand. And then like you get to see it, when you're all in, there are spots where if you had a deep stack, you would have like been pushed out on the flop, but instead, since you're all in, you get to see all 5 cards and like you hit a backdoor flush draw that wins you the pot or something. So short stacks are advantageous. Middle stacks are not so easy to play. Chip Reese once told me though that when he plays online, he likes to buy in for like 16,000 on the 200-400 game, which would be equivalent to buying in for 400 in this game. Can't remember his rationale exactly, but he preferred to buy in for the middling amounts. So in terms of aggression level, yes, I mean, I think that this table is a pretty difficult table. I think that it's probably, we probably have strong players here. Mo Money, he plays erratically, not so sure about his game. Sapster, I would guess, is a strong short stack player. Lay low, he seems to be a strong regular. Don't have so much of a read on Omaha fan yet. I've liked what I've seen of his game so far. We haven't seen much re-raising before the flop, and what we've seen doesn't appear to be so tactically sound. Earlier we had this player limp, and this guy raised to 45, and then this guy Mo Money re-raised, and it appeared on the face of it to be a stupid place to re-raise because this guy was never going to fold any hand that he had raised with to a re-raise, and he has aces too often given the stack sizes for Mo Money to re-raise there without aces, because every time a Moss fan has aces, he just pushes all in, and he has, probably on average a 58% equity or something against Mo Money. So it appeared to be a stupid spot to re-raise. If Mo Money in fact had aces, which was the most likely scenario, it was not a wise spot to telegraph that information to Omaha fan, because now Omaha knows exactly what he has to beat, and the stack sizes are such that he can profitably call with any of the hands he would have raised with, and he either check folds if he misses completely, or if he hits his hand, he probably has aces in bad shape and wins a nice pot. So just to wrap up, we had a fairly interesting session, lost a little bit of money, got involved in one pot where we had top 2 turned into top full house, played it in a somewhat unconventional way, and was drawn out on the river. Lost a sizable pot there. Nothing too interesting on our side. We didn't have any big tangles. Bluffed in a couple spots. Played very tight for the most part.